This is J. Krishnamurti's third public discussion in Ojai, California, 1966.
This is the last gathering, and we're going to this afternoon to talk over things together, perhaps more in detail, and go into one particular question or a problem to the very end of it. I wonder what you would like to discuss or talk over together. Mira.
Many of us here are involved in education. I think we must find out, what does it really mean to be an educator?
What does it really mean to be an educator?
Let's talk about dying to every moment.
Let us talk about dying to every moment.
Third,
You see.
how do you bring a cessation to psychic phenomena to those who have no desire to indulge in it?
Beg your pardon?
How do you bring about a complete cessation to psychic phenomena to those who have no desire to indulge in it?
How do you bring about an end to the psychic phenomena, though you're not interested in it?
Correct. Please discuss the development of capacity.
What is the place?
Please discuss the development of capacity.
Discuss the development of capacity. Sorry, sir.
Do you find any difference between being emotional and being spontaneous?
Do you find any difference between being emotional and spontaneous? Yes, doctor.
Could we discuss the question of intensity, of passion?
Could you discuss the question of intensity and passion? No, I think that will be enough. One more. I wonder if we cannot put all these questions into one issue, into one problem. I think we can, if we can go into this question of a mind that is shallow. And if the mind is no longer petty, narrow, limited, then all these questions will be answered. Agree? Is that right?
Right.
All these questions one will be able to answer for oneself. So will those who have asked the questions, will they also agree with, if we can discuss one thing that will include all this? Yes, sir?
What is true blessedness?
True blessedness. Right, sir, I'll come to that. Shall we discuss one issue that will include all this? Right? That is, how can a mind that is rather dull, superficial, petty, so terribly self-concerned, self-centered, how can such a mind become deep? Right? So that one answers the question from the very depth, and therefore from a depth that will answer all these questions, right? So, if we can go into that, perhaps we shall be able to come upon it for ourselves. First of all, what do we mean by a shallow mind? A petty mind, a narrow mind, a mind full of opinions, judgments, full of its own self-concerned activities, outwardly and inwardly. Would you say such a mind is a shallow mind? A shallow mind can be extraordinarily informed. Very clever, like a lawyer's mind, cunning, capable of argument, sustaining a particular point of view with statistics, specialized knowledge, and so on and on and on. Would you call such a mind a shallow mind? Please, if I may suggest, don't agree or disagree. We are going to go into this question. If we say such a mind is a shallow mind, and all its activities, whether outward or inward, is still shallow, right? No?
Self-centered.
Yes, sir. And we'll come to that. We'll find out what it means to be self-centered. I think I hope you don't mind. I think I am shallow-minded. I don't admit it. That's a terrible idea, to admit to oneself that I'm a very shallow, petty, bourgeois little mind. But I see that. And I see such a mind, though very well informed about the world's affair, has many opinions, taking this side or that side, committing itself to a particular activity, so-called spiritual, religious, or political, economic. You follow? Now, I am aware of that. I am aware that I am a rather shallow person, petty, very quick to react to and safeguard my own pettiness. Justify it, or try to join something or commit to a particular activity which gives the appearance of depth. Please, I just want to, at the beginning, expose the question, and then we will discuss it, we'll talk about it together. We are inquiring, what is a shallow mind? I say to myself, because you have told me, or I have become suddenly aware of this problem, that I am a very shallow mind, that my thoughts are very shallow. and I'm a do-gooder. I don't see the whole problem of the world. I see certain activity as a reforming activity which will add a drop to this whole bucket of mess, confusion. I see that being shallow, narrow-minded, I try to break through it. I try to acquire more knowledge, more information. I read more books. I'm able to talk about Mozart or Beethoven or some Indian music or some dancer or some artist, this and that and the other. I've got little gifts, capacities. I can develop those capacities. Because I see to have a good capacity gives me not only worldly possession, but also it makes me feel comfortable, makes me famous, and so on and on. And also I see that being narrow-minded, I go to activities which are really narrow. I support politicians, canvas for them, encourage others to be nationalistic, flag waving. Or I say this particular war is wrong, but war, I like certain wars, I don't like this war. Go into it, please. Look at it. I take sides very quickly. I have got so many obstinate opinions which I justify because there are people around me who are also narrow-minded with their extraordinarily clever explanations. And I say, look, so-and-so supported this idea. And so on. And being aware of all this process, if I do not commit myself to a particular political or religious sects or groups, then if I have committed myself to those, then I'm absolutely lost. Because they give me certain practices in meditation, in the way of philosophy, what I should do, should not do, and I'm caught in that, and that is my ultimate trap, and I'm lost in it. If I don't do that, and if I see other people who are committed and see how silly it all is, then I question myself, how is this mind, which is narrow, shallow, petty, how is it become deep, right? Would that be a natural, normal question? It would, wouldn't it? I see, no, that's a simile, I don't like. So my problem then is, how is a shallow mind, and it's aware it's shallow, how is it to become really very deep, very profound, very, what am I to do? You understand my question? I see gathering information, getting terribly well informed, able to quote books, tell you that picture is better than that and go into the details, the marvelous music and the musicians whom I know, don't know, and I know all that. And I say to myself, what am I to do to have a mind that's really very profound? Right? That would be my normal question, wouldn't it? Do we? Yes? Can we go on? Right? Right. Now, look at the question, please. A shallow mind is going to measure the depth. And it's going to say what is profound. Right? Right? Please follow this. It's very important to understand this if we're going to discuss afterwards. Go talk about it. Right? The moment it asks the question, what am I to do to be profound? It has already put a wrong question. And therefore, it will do things that it thinks will make it profound. I don't know if you're following all this. Let me, just a minute, sir. Don't begin yet to ask questions about it. Let's talk it over together, think it over together first. I realize I am shallow, superficial, and I like to be very profound. Now, I say to myself, you have told me, look, you are a silly person, because moment you put that question, you've already caught in the trap of shallowness. Because the shallow mind can't possibly measure the depth. Right? So I have put a wrong question, and without knowing it's a wrong question, I pursue that question. And therefore I think I'm becoming more and more and more deep. I don't know if you're following all this. If I'm making myself clear, not that you're following. So I have put a wrong question, right? So what is the right question? Please, we're not playing a clever game of being entertained for an hour by cunning thought. This is a tremendous problem, you understand?
Probably rather than a question, there is a realization that, yes, I am shallow.
Look, when you realize you are shallow, then what?
I feel emptiness and I want...
So don't use different word. Still, let's stick to the same word because we have understood it. Because if you bring emptiness, then we have to explain what we mean by emptiness and so on. Do please, let's stick to one symbol and go through with that word.
How did my mind get that way?
What, sir? And where the gentleman asks, how does a shallow mind realize that it is shallow? I mean, you've asked the question, so go into it a little bit. You will see it in a minute. Either people have told me I am shallow, therefore I say, by Jove, I am shallow, or I have discovered it. Right? I have discovered it through comparison, don't I? You are clever, not shallow, I am. So I compare myself with you and say I am shallow. Right? And with is not, please follow this, is not comparison the very center of shallowness? Is that?
It couldn't be conceived. An individual, as he described, would never say, I am shallow. It is only the other person.
I've said that just now, madam. I've just now said, if somebody tells me I'm a shoddy little mind, I'd either get angry, or because he's a very clever man, very so-called spiritual, or so-called intellectual, I accept it. Or I say to myself, I am shallow because I see you are very clever, very deep. In comparison to what I discover in you, I say I am shallow, right? By comparing myself with you, I discover I am shallow. I don't know if you're following all this, right?
Not necessarily comparison.
Wait, I'm taking one thing at a time, please.
They're evaluating and judging him.
That's right. So as long as I am evaluating, judging, comparing, they are one of the factors that make the mind shallow. Right? So I don't compare. You're following? I don't compare. Though you tell me I'm shallow, shoddy little mind, I say, all right. I don't accept you. But I discover, by comparing, I am shallow. And therefore I say, by Jove, I must do something. I must become like you. And the becoming like you is the nature of shallowness. I don't know if you're following. Right? Becoming like somebody, a hero, a savior, a master, a very, very erudite, scholarly person, becoming through comparison, please follow this, becoming through comparison is the very nature of shallowness.
But we continuously go between opposites.
Yes, sir, I know that. So I reject, I don't compare, right? But I don't compare. I don't compare with what has been or with what should be. Right? Then I ask myself, if I don't compare, if there is no hero, no symbol, no person whom I'm imitating or conforming to, or who has informed me that I'm shallow, therefore I am trying to be not shallow, when I reject all that, you understand? Am I shallow?
I think at that moment I'm alert to the problem.
And not at that moment, we are doing it now. We are doing it together now.
I mean that.
All right.
So I say, so what? I'm
Wait,
shallow.
wait,
I realize
wait.
I'm shallow, so what?
No, please, look what we have done. Please just let us see what we have done. The structure and the meaning of what we have done. We put many, many questions this evening. And we say, look, let us, if we could answer, all these questions will be answered if we could take one central issue. And the central issue is, we said, a petty mind, a narrow mind, a shoddy bourgeois little mind. And we more or less pointed out what is a shadow mind. And we said a comparative mind is a shallow mind. Right?
Mind always exists by seeking identity.
What's that?
Does mind always exist by trying to seek identity all the time?
It is doing that. When I say I must be like him, I'm seeking identity.
So we bring
And do see, sir, do we realize, not later but now, that a comparative process indicates a shallow mind?
Because a questioning mind is a shallow mind.
What?
A questioning mind, or a question.
It's that's it. I believe that we have a very short time, therefore let us. Yes, sir.
Sir, I don't have much time either. I would like to ask you a personal question. May I?
Wait, sir. All right.
The mind in the uncreated state of freedom. You find it, in past play words, you find it hard to communicate your thoughts to others.
If they are listening, no. Right. I realize all my life is a comparative process. At school, I've been told I must be better than that boy. And as I grow up, that is well established through college, and so on and on. And every advertisement says this is better than that. This toothbrush, better, 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 better. The better is the destruction of the good. But I'm caught in that, better. I must become the executive, I must become the bishop, I must become the colonel, and so on and on and on and on. Now I realize that this thinking in terms of better is the nature of a shallow mind, right? So, can I immediately stop thinking in terms of better?
You are a man speaking to a mixed audience. Do you not think that the solutions you have found for yourself as a man might be different than the answers a woman has?
Sir, it's not a question of man or woman. It's a question of able to think clearly, able to see things as they are. And I think one can look, whether you are a man or a woman, clearly if we give attention to it. And attention is not possible if we are emotional, either womanly emotion or manly emotion, manly obstinacy, and so on, so on. So let's come back to this. Can I, who have been conditioned so heavily to think in terms of comparison, can I end that? End it completely today, now. When I look at a picture, I look at a picture. I don't say that is by so-and-so and that's better than that. Can I do that? From now, never compare. Of course, I do compare when I have to choose this pair of trousers or that pair of trousers. But we're not talking about that. We are talking at a deeper level, which at a psychological level, not a deeper level. Right? So, psychologically, inwardly, I have been trained by society, in school, in education, to compare. And that is tremendously that has conditioned me tremendously. And I see that, and can I break it instantly?
No.
The questioner says no. And because he has said no, he has already blocked himself.
That's not true.
Sir, please, sir, when we say no to something, we stop questioning. Perhaps you didn't mean that. I may be. But I'm generalizing, sir, not saying you or me. But when we say no or yes, we have already stopped inquiry. That's all, sir.
Must we not investigate further and see what's involved in the dropping of the comparisons?
We have done it just now, sir. See, sir, I have to stop at a certain time, 4:15, and therefore we must proceed, otherwise. Can I stop that? Not compare anymore.
It's the only way.
Yes, sir?
When I was to compare, I just, speaking for myself, I dwell a lot on the mountaintop and I get no outside influence. I understand much of what you're saying. I just trying to ask you again, when you reach the stage beyond play where the mind is in the uncreated state of freedom, you plant some cards to communicate your thoughts to your friends.
Little bit, sir. Let's proceed, please. Yes, madam.
Well, what you described, the shallow mind, isn't that really the human condition?
We've just now said that, madam. We've described the human conditioning. And one of the walls of that human conditioning, that prism, is this comparing all my life. Somebody is more beautiful than I, and so on and on and on. And can I see that. Can I, so immediately break it. What breaks it is seeing the truth of this comparative process, and to see the truth of it, you must be completely attentive at that moment. And if one is completely attentive, it's finished.
For that moment.
For that moment, no. If you see, look, if you see danger, a precipice, then you always are aware of precipices, right? You don't say, at that moment, I'm aware of that precipice. But once you know the precipice, you are, it's finished. But you don't see the comparative process is a most dangerous process. And therefore you say, at the moment I see it, and fall back into it. But if one sees it as a tremendous danger, it's finished.
Aren't you talking about the grosser comparisons? How about some of the subtle comparisons which one may not be aware of?
And of course, of course. Therefore, one has to see from moment to moment how you are thinking. When you leave here, of course, all the old habits of comparison comes into play. And at that moment, one comparison, at that moment, be aware of it. Don't say, oh, how terrible. Be aware of that comparative thing immediately. So, and we do comparative process, acquisitive process psychologically, the maintenance of anger, greed, and all the rest of it. We say that all that is shallow mind. Now, is there a mind? Please, next step. Is there a mind that is deep? You understand my question? Have I explained my question? We have described what a shallow mind is. Its activity, its ways, its cunningness, and what it is. We have drawn the dimensions and all the rest of it. Now, next thing is there depth? Huh? Of course. No, sir. No. You understood my question. Have I made it clear?
We don't know if there is or not.
You don't know. But I'm asking you.
We know only the shallow mind.
Right. But we have said comparative process, drop it. Then naturally you will ask, I would. What is a deep mind, wouldn't you? Huh? Wouldn't you? But why didn't you? Huh? No, sir, you haven't, let's go slowly. You see, shallow mind, we've said, is the mind that's always in action, always in thought, comparing, judging, evaluating. Its very activity is born of thought. And then thought says, by Jove, I see that. Then what is depth? Right? Huh?
A mind that doesn't.
What, sir?
A mind that doesn't think of itself.
Does that make for depth? A mind that doesn't think about itself. But a mind that doesn't think about itself may be committed to doing good work in Africa.
It doesn't qualify.
Huh?
It doesn't qualify. No qualifications.
No, please, I'm asking myself, I see what a shallow mind is. Then I begin to say, now, what is a really deep mind? And am I going to find out through thinking? And don't say no, please. So I discover something. I can go into the shallow mind that is structure and nature through thought, through reason, right? And through thought I'm going to try and find out what a deep mind is, right? And is thought the instrument? Which doesn't mean I become romantic, I become mystical, I become, spiritual, religious, and all the rest of it. So, I discover thought is not the instrument, right? Right? Because I have gone into it very, very carefully through reason, through thought. That what is a shallow mind? I see it very clearly because I can reason healthily, normally, clearly, and I see that's obvious. Now, I've got this instrument which is called thought, and with that I'm going to investigate what is deep mind, what is a deep mind. And I say, by Jove, what am I doing? I'm using the same instrument which has made for shallowness, and with that instrument I'm going to find out. Right? So I say, by Jove, I see. I can't. Right? Thought is not the instrument to find out what is profound. Right? Beg pardon?
Without thought isn't the way either.
Then what is the way? So, gentlemen say without thought. Huh?
Quiet feeling isn't the way either.
We don't know what the way is, sir.
No, that's what I say. I'm just posing it. I'm trying to establish. We just go from one set of opposites.
But I'm not. I've dropped a whole process that makes for shallowness. I see that very clearly. But thought remains. And with that thought I inquire. And therefore I realize that your thought isn't it. That's not the instrument, that's not the drill.
Action.
No, please, do go step by step. Don't jump to conclusions. Would you say meditation is the way? Look, please, I'm not pointing out a way. If you follow a way, you're already shallow. What we are trying to do is to see clearly through how thought works, which is comparative, acquiring information, knowledge, joining this and that, and so on, which is the monkey that's always on a chain. Right? And I see that. But the monkey still says, I must investigate what is deep. And the monkey sets about, asking what to do, what not to do, methods, you follow? And I see, by Jove, as long as there is an activity of the monkey, it cannot possibly discover what is deep. Right? And is there depth? Huh?
Is not depth in itself a statement of opposite?
No, sir. We have been through all that, sir. Do you understand? I have, being shallow, I realized what shallowness is. I realized it's not a verbal statement. It's not a conclusion. It isn't something which has been imposed on me or I have discovered. It is a fact. And that fact has been created by thought. And I said, by Jove. Now, are you, the monkey with that thought says, I must be more profound. What is the way? Still, it is the monkey, the thought. So I reject that, right? Because I say, by Jove, as long as I use the instrument which has created shallowness, it will also create depth which will be actually shallow. Right? No, sir. So what do I do? What do I say then? Then I say to myself, by Jove, is there depth at all? Please, sir, don't answer me yet. Do look at the question. The shallow mind has realized it is shallow and now has sought depth and realizes the seeker is the maker of shallowness. Right? And the seeker says, is there depth at all? Which I have sought. So one discovers, if you have really gone that far, not verbally, not intellectually, not emotionally, but really gone that far, then you will find there is neither shallow nor depth. No, don't agree, please. This is the most... Being shallow, I have filled with activity. The mind has filled itself with activity. And that activity has made it extraordinarily alive, but it's still shallow. Now I reject that kind of activity, comparative and all the rest of it, and then I'm still seeking depth. It is still the activity of thought. And therefore it's still shallow. At least that activity of seeking depth is now the content of the mind. And therefore the seeking of the depth is still shallow. Right? Sir, yes.
You have spoken many words for many years and written many words.
I'm afraid so, sir.
Quite humbly, and I mean this quite sincerely, not sarcastically at all.
Oh, yes, much.
Do you think you have come upon or spoken any original thoughts?
Oh, I wouldn't know, sir. Gentleman says you have talked a great deal, written a lot of words. Do you think you are original? I never even thought about it. And this is not humility, but it has never said, by Joe, I'm original. No, sir, So, I realize, and therefore I am dead. There is death to comparative thinking altogether. There is death to seeking, depth. Therefore, what has happened to my mind? It is no longer caught in the activity of the superficial. It is now it's no longer seeking in the activity of the depth. So what has happened? The mind has emptied itself of all activity, right? Superficial or profound. Therefore it is empty. And from that emptiness, it acts. From emptiness, not from comparative seeking or from the activity of depth. Both the activities are superficial. Both the activities are the activities of thought as the monkey. Let's look at it from the other way. I'm sorry I've taken so long. I hope you want to ask questions in this.
Is the explosion in the mind that you talk about, if you look at it,
Here it is, sir. That's what we're doing now. There is an explosion taking place now if you really go into it.
the monkey cannot manifest thought.
What's that?
The monkey cannot manifest thought.
Monkey is the thought. It is not manifesting thought. Please. That's only a word, monkey or thought. I just brought in that word, but does not throw that monkey out. So, what has happened? There is a state of mind I see, not I see. I am rejected totally all comparative thinking. Totally. I don't compare myself with anybody. With the masters, with the saviors, with the artists, with the hero, with the country, I completely put that aside. Because it is dangerous, and because it is the work of a shallow mind, it is dangerous. Therefore, I know the danger of that all the time. And when a dangerous thought of comparative thinking comes up, I know immediately that's a dangerous thought, and I walk away from it without effort. And also I know comparative thinking, the search for depth is still thought at work. The thought which has created the shallowness is now trying to create depth. And it's the same work. You understand? Whether you call it depth or shallow, it's still the same.
Sir, your attitude toward the question is I perceive the difference between what you see here and your image of what should be here. Right or wrong?
What's that?
In your attitude toward the questioners, I perceive in your mind the difference between what you see here and an image of what should be seen.
Yes, sir.
Your impatience, I see that.
Huh?
You seem impatient sometimes with the questioners.
Me, I am impatient. What I can't understand.
Yes, that's what you said. I say, I perceive as you look out here, and you're impatient with the questioners, you're seeing what's here, and you're comparing what's here with what you think should be here, and you're impatient with the questioners.
What is this? I can't hear, sir.
He says you are impatient with the questioners.
I says I'm impatient with the questioner says I'm impatient with the questioner.
May I say the reason?
Huh?
I say you look here and you see this gathering, and I think your impatience is caused by the fact that what you see here is a little different from your image, an image you have of what a proper question.
I am sorry. No, sir, I'm not doing that. Sorry, I'm not impatient. First of all, look, our time is, I said at the beginning, I'll have to stop very quickly at 4 o'clock, at 10 past 4. And I said I'm not, we must get, it's like a fast horse is not impatient, it wants to run. You can hold it. and say, look, hold on, we have done that. At different, I am pleased, I am not impaired. All that I want, let's go into this thing, which is not impatience. On the contrary, I've gone into it very, very, very slowly, step by step. So, and also he says, I have an image about the audience. I haven't. It would be stupid on my part to have an image. Let's cut out all that. Now, so I realize the activity of thought creates both the depth and the shallowness. And therefore, realizing it, both activities stop. I think when it is necessary, otherwise, what's the point of thinking? I don't know if you're following. Or there may be no thinking at all. But so you don't go into all this. You understand? I'm sorry, not you understand. If one really puts away, not through effort, because you see the thing very clearly, the thought breeds both the superficial and the depth. If you see that, if you understand it, if one actually realizes that, as you realize toothache, actually realize it, then both activities stop. Then the mind is completely empty of such activity. And these two activities, that's what we are burdened with all the time. That's our life, our way of looking at life. And when you don't look at life that way, there's something entirely different, natural, which is your mind is completely empty of these two activities. And it is not that emptiness must be maintained. And when you maintain anything, it is maintained by thought, because thought derives from that pleasure. And therefore it is not empty of these two activities. And so there is neither depth nor the shallow. If one discovers that, you have discovered everything. And so your mind, being empty, can function in this world, go to the office, have a family from that emptiness. It says,